Hey guys, it's DC, and welcome to the Soap Sanctuary where all soap lovers are welcome. This is my Sanctuary Reflections, life lessons learned from soaps. Now, the craziest thing is I actually don't have a soap to reflect this or pair it with, but I did want to talk about the power of community. I did this video this morning, and due to the traffic and the beep, 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 beep on the road, it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. But I wanted to talk about the power of community, and I was reflecting on it this morning, thinking about how important community is. Um, because here's the thing, one thing I notice in life is that even though people will say they're self-made or they did it on their own, nobody gets to where they want to be at in life just completely on their own. And when I say that, I'm not even just talking monetarily. It could even have been encouragement, right? That someone provided for you down the line. Nobody gets to where they want to be at on their own. And even though I know a lot of millennials have this idea of like, I don't need nobody, I don't need this, I'm not putting up with this. And I understand sometimes the origins of where that comes from, especially when the way I look at it, sometimes they've gone from one extreme to another where they saw the generation before them or their parents' generation put up and tolerate everything under the sun. And so now they've gone from that extreme to another extreme. It's like, I'm not putting up with nothing under the sun. And I think in some aspects that we do have to tolerate and settle for something. And what I mean by that in that context is, I'll put it this way. Because when people hear the word settling or putting up with, or even the phrase putting up with, they automatically ascribe a negative connotation to it. But whether it's positive or negative is up to us. That's the connotation we put on it. So whether you're settling for more or settling for less or settling for what you want or settling for in between is up to you. But the word settling itself or the phrase putting up with is technically a neutral phrase. All these other connotations what we put onto it. But I do think in some ways we do have to settle and put up with something. And hopefully it's something that the idea is that it's something that would serve us or something that we find to be healthy for us. Because when I think about the idea of building community, something I had to reflect on is that it's been a bit of a struggle for me building community. And I'm not going to lie, full transparency, I feel like I have been struggling with a little bit of depression these past 2 months because I haven't had much of a community outside of grad school. And I've been trying so hard since moving to my city where my school is located to try to build that community outside of it. But something I'm realizing is instead of me trying to reinvent the wheel, maybe just lean into the community that's already here, which is in grad school, you know? Because of course, when you're in college, that's probably one of the easiest places where you can build community. And I think one of the reasons why I was doing that was because I didn't want to become one of those people where like school and work was everything. And I wanted to make sure I had a balance. Because I see that happen a lot where people are like, I'm going to grind, I'm going to put my career first, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that, but it's like, your career cannot hold you at night. Like after you have all those things and accomplishments, you're going to want somebody to eventually share those aspects with, because if it's just for you, it's like, well, what's the point? You know what I mean? And so for me, I had already realized that and was trying to get like ahead of the game because I have community, but physically around me, I don't really have much of that. And I used to be able to visit my family a lot more often, but because now I'm in the clinic almost like every day, and because I'm doing couples counseling this semester, I've given up my Saturdays, which is what I need to do to hone in on my expertise, you know? It's been a bit of a challenge for me. And I'm realizing how there's even that much more how important physical community is. But I said to myself, you know what? Instead of me trying to reinvent the wheel, why don't I just lean to the community that's already here? And so like I even put together a get together next week at one of my cohort members' houses, which she was grateful to offer up her house as a venue. And I'm like organizing the thing because I'm like, you know, why not? We all have a shared experience we're going through right now. Why not lean into that? Because that's sometimes like one of the ways we build communities with people who have shared experiences or shared interests or shared beliefs, like coworkers or people who've maybe served together in the army or, you know, all those different aspects is like how you build community health. Soap YouTube, you know what I mean? Like Nina Albert, this is how you like build community with people. But then that physical community is people like that's around you in the vicinity is also another layer of what's important because it helps you even get through certain things and times in life. And I remember when I lived in Tampa, I was in a relationship at that time where with my ex, I put a lot of pressure on him to be my community, like my end all be all community, because I didn't have no other community at the time but really him. and your partner can't be everything for you, I think it's very unrealistic and it puts a lot of pressure on things. And then I remember down the line, years after that, where I ended up in a relationship with someone where they didn't have no physical community at all. And I felt like, reflecting back on the relationship, it's almost like they wanted me to be everything for them. And because I couldn't, there was a lot of hyper focus on the things that I couldn't do, which naturally your partner is not going to be able to do everything. They're not going to be into everything you want. It's just not realistic in a sense, right? And I realize how important it is incorporating community into my life, into my everyday, like having it just built into the framework. Because the thing is, even coming to grad school, I already knew about all the different types of things that would happen. So I had to put things in place. Because a lot of times people will try to do something, but sometimes the reason why they may not be able to accomplish it is because the system behind it doesn't support it. So what I mean by is this, for example, like let's say if someone is they're a recovering alcoholic and they're seeing their therapist once a week or their minister once a week or AA or maybe even all of the above. Most times, 9 times out of 10, those things are maybe just going to be about an hour and a half of the week. So for an hour a week, you're going to AA or you're seeing your minister or you're seeing your therapist, but yet the remaining hours of the week, you're hanging around people who are partying and drinking. Do you think you're going to be able to stay sober? Probably not. Or let's say if you're someone who's working on your self-esteem and you're going to therapy, you're feeling great, you're feeling empowered, you're feeling all this great stuff, but after that 1 hour session, or even going to church for 1 hour that week, you're in a friends with benefits situation that maybe you didn't want to be in the first place, and this person doesn't want to commit, and it's making you feel bad about yourself. Do you think your self-esteem is going to be able to get better and you're spending multiple days of the week with them? Probably not. The system around you has to support what you're trying to do. And so even for me being in grad school, like it requires that modicum of support. This is why now if I'm dating someone, like whoever I date now would have to be someone who really understands grad school, is willing to support me as I would be willing to support them in their ventures too. Which I feel like lately dating wise, that just hasn't really been my experience with people like that. But I also know this generation is just very different than past generations. I also feel like, side note, I would not date, I'm not really in the mood to date American men. I like foreign men better, whether they're Caribbean, whether they're Hispanic. I just feel like it's a different, because here's the thing, American culture is very individualistic. And I come from Haitian culture, which is very collectivist. We think of the gander, and then American culture only thinks of the goose. Now, coming from being a part of both cultures, I can think of the gander and think of the goose, right? But I do like people who can consider the gander, because I feel like that's important. You know, it's really important. And I know, like I said, from a lot of people, they've seen generations of the past put up with everything under the sun. So like, okay, I see my parents or this person put up with everything, and so I'm not gonna make sure I don't put up with anything at all. And that's not fair, because you have to be willing to give service, especially when you're trying to build community with someone, with others. You have to, me and my mom, we talked about this. You have to be willing to give service. I hear a lot of people talk about what they're wanting to receive and what they want to get, but never what they're willing to give. Those kinds of people, I do stay away from them, though, low-key. I do stay away from them, because if I never even hear that in your speech, this is telling me a lot. Like, you know, those people sometimes, like, let's say like you'll get into relationships with them and they'll be like, I need somebody to be patient with me. Like I need patience. And then meanwhile, they're making your life a living hell and they're not willing to give you no patience back yourself. Nah, papu. Like you got to stay away from that. That's not going to end well. It's not going to bode well for you. And that's the one thing I've learned, is that I feel like because I have like a really like giving heart and I'm really like open and, you know, willing to give support, I have to be careful that I only give that to people who I know will appreciate it. Because sometimes when you're so eager to give it, you're so wanting to have community, you got to be careful in how you look at that, because it can even make you desperate to end up in situations you really had no business being in the first place. You know what I mean? And so cultivating community with people who are willing and ready to give and receive it, I think that's very important in a sense. And so for me, even like I've just started to come to terms with that, and I'm like, you know, maybe it would just be easier to build like community with other grad students, because being 31, come back from grad school, my life has definitely taken a shift, and back in the day, I felt like, especially like say with dating or something, like when Pilm was grad school, people were willing to build with you, but that's not the case anymore. People want you prepackaged and ready to go. Um, which I guess is fine, but that's just not the kind of person I want. But that's usually coming from people of, that's usually an American way of thinking. I'm telling you, foreigners don't be thinking like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that I'm realizing that community is necessary for your growth. You know, and you know how they'll say it takes a village to raise a child, but you need to have those things around. You need to have those systems in play to help support you, because you don't get to where you want to be at on your own. You just don't. Like, I'm not in grad school. My family's in grad school with me. It's kind of like when people say, oh, when you go to prison, your whole family goes with you. It's true. Like, because at the end of the day, I know that, like, I can have all the accomplishment in the world. I can be the top therapist. I can be the next Matthew Hussey, whatever you want it to be. I believe I'm the second coming of Wayne Brady. But I feel like no matter what we are, you need to have people to share this with. I don't remember who said the quote, but they said the quality of our life is based on the quality of our relationships around us. And I have been very big and pro-relationship person just because the way I grew up, that was my environment. But I also have to be mindful that everybody's not in that space. Like, for example, like even when I was talking about the other day with a friend, I was telling my friend, like, if someone, and I know this sounds really bad, this might even sound a little judgmental, but if someone does not have a good relationship with their family, or they don't like to see their families often, granted, I would ask questions, but like, I would probably be very leery of this person, because I know sometimes people try to solve their child or family dynamics through their partner unconsciously. And I find that people who are just not close to their family, or just, they show up a certain type of way in relationships. That's all I'm gonna say on that. That's all I'm gonna say on that, because it's not always the case, but most times they be showing up a certain type of way in relationships. What I noticed, and I stay away from people like that. And see, that's why I like Caribbean people, because foreigners and Caribbean people, they just, anyway, that's not the point of this video. That's not the point of the video. But like I said, I think it's just very important that I honor my journey, but just also consider about like the community, and even reframing how I look at community. Because sometimes I think a lot of millennials, they're thinking like, okay, I got the good job, I got these things, like the community should just come lay at my feet and people should start come sucking my toes. And that's not how things work. Like, you have to put some intentionality behind it. Everyone wants everything to be natural nowadays and not forced, but they don't put no intention behind it. And you kind of have to do that. You have to put some kind of intentionality behind it, you know? And some of these concepts I'm talking about today, I would hope to be able to expand on it some more, because it's only like a 13, 14-minute video. But that's something I really realized, in a sense. Like, it's very important to be willing to give and build and receive. And these are things I've known for years. These are things I've known for years. Like I said, I've known I was dealing with a little bit of depression because I don't have that physical community around me. But I said, you know what? Like, maybe I need to reframe the way I look at it. You know? And I know some people feel like they don't have nothing at all, but maybe it might be some way to challenge the way you look at community, right? To challenge those views of how it's supposed to look for you. I know some people are going to say, well, oh, there's nothing wrong in life. When you're alone, that's when you get the best things done. And for some people, that might be the season in your life where you might just need to be alone, and you might need to be by yourself because maybe unhealthy communities you've been in the past. So I understand that. And for those people, I'm not speaking to the aspect. You guys are an exception to the rule, right? And even when I talk about the whole thing of settling, I'm not saying to settle for anything or a harmful relationship where it's verbally or physically abusive or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. You guys are an exception. I think it's important to distinguish those exceptions to the rule. But what I'm talking about are the dynamics we know that we can work in them, but we just maybe choose not to. So for me, I'm just realizing there's such a power. Even Soap YouTube, there's such a power in this community. That's it. It's virtual. It's virtual community. I'm talking about physical ones, but there's a power in that. I feel like there's a way to connect with others, because it's interesting how in this world today we have every single digital app and thing and resource in the world for people to connect, and people just can't seem to do it. I personally think it's because people got too many damn choices and options. If it was up to me, we'd be doing arranged marriages. That's how we would do it if it was up to me. Because sometimes people can make something work when they don't got no choice. But when they got too many choices, all of a sudden the grass always is going to seem green on the other side. But the point of this video that I would say is, to wrap this up, is that there's power in community and there's strength in numbers. Like, we all need people around us life. Even the Bible says it's not good for man to be alone. Like, so when people try to perpetuate that I don't need nobody kind of bullshit, first thing I try to do is first examine where that's coming from. Because if that's coming from seasons and lifetimes of hurt that they've had, then okay, I let that go. But if it's coming from a place of like arrogance and like selfishness and that kind of stuff, I just know to stay away from people like that. But anyways, guys, that's my video on the power of community and just some of my thoughts. So this is Sanctuary Reflection. This is like an off-filtered thought. I don't have no script in front of me or like that. It's just my thoughts here this morning. And hopefully this video resonates with someone. If it doesn't, that's okay too. That's cool too. Anyways, guys, that's my video. I'm out.